Another C.D.C. production.
What is up? How y'all doing? We back with another C.D.C. production. We got a great interview today, a very special interview, I'd say. We got a giant in the Bandog world, H. Lee Robertson of American Sentinel Canine. This has been highly anticipated by myself, and I think others. A lot of people have recommended Lee to me, and of course, I knew him. Just had to work out the time and get an interview in, and today is what we're here to do. So I'm gonna let him up, and we're gonna get into it. How you doing?
Doing good. How about you? Have a blessed day,
I'm
man.
good. I'm good, man. I'm glad to have you on my platform. It's been a long time coming. Just been studying your program, looking back at all the work you've put in, from Eclipse to now. I've researched a lot, especially within the masters that you use in your program. So
Sure.
I think we're going to get into it. Let's talk about the thought of the American Sentinel Canine. How did it start, and where did your research begin with that?
Yeah, well, it kind of happened organically just by accident. So, as a child, I grew up, I was always into animals. I was hunting and fishing, had all kinds of pets, within the limits of and boundaries of a child, snakes and lizards and fish tanks and
Right.
whatnot. I had a golden retriever. I would take fishing with me on a regular basis. That thing she went with me everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, but as I got older and older, I wanted something a little bit more demanding, a little bit more capable. And as I eventually got Akita, and I noticed that when I was hiking and camping and whatnot, I was always having to wait on them. They got tired, they got hot, they couldn't take the heat. Also, the golden retriever that I had as a child, it had a heart murmur and it also had epilepsy. That was a dog that my parents bought from a breeder. And then my Akita that I got later on, actually, yesterday I made a video and I misspoke. I said something about my parents buying the Akita from a breeder. That's not true. The Akita were rescued, but I misspoke. And they came from a rescue place, and one of them was a good dog. But the tougher one, the tougher of the two dogs, believe it or not, actually it had epilepsy also. So
Wow.
I was disappointed to see that of the three dogs that I had growing up, two of them had epilepsy. One of them had a heart murmur. One of them, the golden retriever, had the heart murmur, and she had epilepsy, and she also had bad hips. So it was like three problems from a professional breeder.
Right.
This is just not acceptable. And so, as a person that just knew with my experience in animals, I knew that dogs were far more capable than what breeders were putting on the ground. And so, with our Akita, we did some obedience, we did some agility, canine good citizenship titles. We had there was two titles that I got on both of them. They were just basic obedience titles, and we did some agility and whatnot. And I just really enjoyed working with the dogs, but I still had this call to nature where I'd go kayaking and hiking and whatnot. And when I could take the dog with me, I didn't take it kayaking with me, but I did take it hiking with me.
Yeah.
And I would notice that anytime I went on a hike that was more than 5 kilometers, which is only like 3.3 miles, the dogs would be looking for the shade tree or the creek to try to cool off, and it was just disappointing. So that's when I started learning more about canine athletes. This was in the 90s, and really began to learn about the American Pit Bull Terrier. And I was also trying to figure out what did I want to do in life. I was always good in math and science, And so my major was originally fisheries. I got out of the fisheries and wildlife stuff because it just felt like not a lot of growth opportunity.
Mm.
And I wanted to have more growth opportunity than I was going to be able to get in fisheries and wildlife stuff. So then I switched to accounting, and accounting as a major. And even though I was good with numbers, when you're dealing with accounting, you have to deal with a lot of history and laws and things like that. And I'm not the best at memory. I have a really good memory on things that I want to know, but
Right.
I have a hard time remembering things that are just like names
Yeah.
and places. And so I was like, this isn't really what I want to do, you know. Plus, it's not challenging mathematics. It's like just addition and basic multiplication. And
Yeah.
so I was like, man, I was trying to figure out what do I really want to do? And it was obvious. I was always, if I wasn't in the woods fishing or hunting or working with an animal, I was in the library, like between classes, always in the animal science section,
Mm.
always reading books about animals, and particularly dogs. And so I was like, you know, this is what I need to do. Now, back in the 90s, I didn't realize that training was going to be as proliferative of an industry that it really is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a huge industry,
Yeah,
but
it is.
because, yeah, but I wasn't exposed to that. And
Right.
so I didn't know that a person could really make a great living as a trainer. You know, yes, we had a trainer as one of my advisors when I was in college, and she had her own training facility. She was literally one of my advisors when I was in college,
Wow.
but she did it part time. And
Yeah.
so, you know, seeing that trainers were doing things part time, I just never even considered that for a career. Although looking back on it now, I now know that you could definitely make a really good living in the training field. But
Oh, I know.
yeah,
I got something exciting coming real soon. I'll be making an announcement real soon. But yeah, I mean, I'm dipping into that field now also.
yeah, it's definitely a very proliferative business if somebody wants to pursue it and they're good at their craft.
Yeah.
But trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I was like, I was just still kind of lost, you know,
Right.
and ended up getting 2 degrees in animal sciences, and because that's what I wanted to do after really self-reflection, always in the library reading about animals, always studying about animals, behavior, genetics, husbandry, whatnot. Um, and I ended up working at the Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Gardens for a little
Okay.
while. That was a discovery period. You know, I thought that would be a cool career, but they don't really interact with the animals as much as you would think. They're
Right.
basically pooper scoopers for the most part, and getting behind the scenes of how that actually works. I didn't really want to do that so much, and this crew Center for the Center of Research for Endangered Center of Reproduction for Endangered Wildlife. I forget. Back then it was Center of Reproduction of Endangered Wildlife. This is in the 90s. They've changed it to the Center of Conservation and Research or something like that for the
Mm.
endangered wildlife. But regardless of what it is, it was they called the Cincinnati Zoo the sexiest zoo in the nation because they focused on reproducing endangered wildlife.
Okay. Okay.
And so they had a really good reproductive program. And back in the 90s, I actually did an embryo transfer with sheep just to see if it would work. We would take a
Wow.
baby out of one sheep and put it in another just to
Yeah.
see if we could get sheep B to give birth to sheep A's baby. And we were successful in doing that. And so the Cincinnati Zoo was doing this with, you know, endangered cats. They would take embryos out of endangered cats and put them into house cats and whatnot, or other cats to let the other cats be the foster. Apparently, they had some success with that. I don't know the full details of that, but that's interesting because that's not just an embryo transfer. That's an embryo
Yeah.
transfer across species barriers. So I don't know how successful that really worked, but it was
Right.
pretty interesting nevertheless. Or
Yeah.
they may have been transferring within same species cats, but it was still pretty interesting to see what they were doing. But regardless, what was the consistent thing? I was always in the library reading about animals, and I was always wanting to go fishing. And I was doing hunting related activities. I don't know if you
Right.
knew it. I owned a traditional archery business back in the late
Okay.
90s, early 2000s. We ended up shutting it down because I was doing too many things between teaching, archery, and the dogs. and then starting a family
Gotcha.
and property, I was working 100 hours a week. So I was like, I have to shut down something. And I looked at, well, archery is really, really a hobby. And
Yeah.
I was making money on the products that I made, but I wasn't making money on inventory. Inventory was eating me up. So I was like,
Mm.
so we shut the archery business down, and then just continued to, I just worked as an educator at both the high school and college level to teach biology and behavior, or teach
Nice.
biology and genetics. I said behavior, to teach biology and genetics. And um, but I knew that domesticated animals, they fell way short. The bar was way too low compared to the wild counterparts.
Yeah.
But I also knew domestication could excel. The fastest four-legged animal, of course, is the cheetah,
Right.
but the next fastest, I believe, is the greyhound. That you can verify that if you want to. Some people want to say it's the third fastest. Regardless, it's way up there.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and then you have some horses that are very fast. So domestication can be successful when it's performance driven.
Mm.
If it's driven for pets, the things fall apart. But when it's driven for performance, it excels. And the first domesticated animal to ever exist was the dog. That they've been domesticated for, if you go through archaeological claims, 20,000 years and more.
Yeah.
And what was the first dog? The first dog was a bandog, to be honest with you. If you look at its duty was to hunt, and its duty was to protect, to
Yeah.
to to make the chances of human survival at a higher level, to
Right.
increase the chances of survival by provide and protect. And so that's literally the first job of the dog.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened, but if I had to guess, humans would wound an animal and they couldn't find it, and wolves would find it.
Oh, yeah.
So they probably went in there one time and saw their animal that they hunted being devoured by the wolves, and probably killed the wolves.
Yeah.
And then maybe there was pups there, and they oh, look at the cute little pup, and turned it into a pet. Now that's just a fabrication of my imagination, but
Right.
it makes sense.
Yeah. It does. I want to touch on what you said about Bandog. I mean, not to get too off track, but a lot of people look at Bandog as more of a breed now, which, I mean, it is kind of getting to that point. But before anything, it was a title. Am I correct?
That's right. That's right. People think a bandog is a Mastiff Pit Bull cross, but a bandog, literally, if we go back to the etymology of the word, it means to be a dog that was banded. Now, in
Right.
English, we put the pronouns before the nouns and whatnot, but if we reverse it, it means a dog that was banded. And banded doesn't mean illegal; it means restrained.
Right.
So let's look at the word band, like a rubber band
Yeah.
is a restraint. A bandage is a confinement, a restraint.
Right.
So to, you know, so they would restrain the dogs with a leash or a chain, a tether of some type. And you can even band a dog with obedience. If you teach it to sit, down, heel, stay,
Yeah.
these are all bands of restraint, but then it's released when it's time to catch its quarry. That's Quarry. I
Yeah.
say that because I've met a lot of people that are intelligent that don't know what the word quarry means, because it's not really used. They're intelligent people that just don't know what that word means.
Yeah.
Because they think it's always like a ditch or a valley between mountains, a quarry.
No. Yeah.
But
It can be like
another
a man or an animal.
Yep, another
Yeah.
definition of that word is the prey item, the item that's being hunted.
Yeah.
And so when a bandog is restrained until it's time to catch its quarry, which could be a hog, it could be a rabbit, it could be a human. Now, a
Yeah.
rabbit wouldn't qualify for bandog, because the quarry for a bandog has to be something that fights back.
Mm.
It has to be a capable animal or target that's able to inflict damage upon the dog. And that's
Right.
why the dog is used to subdue dangerous game, whether it
Yeah.
be man or beast.
Absolutely.
The
So
pit bull is a bandog. It is a Bandog. That's literally what it's doing. It's restrained until it's time to catch its quarry.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah. So yeah, like a lot of people get into, oh, I got a band dog, or this is a band dog, but then it's just a dog that's crossed. It's not a dog that says has a job or hunts or does, or is a protection dog. It's a dog that's crossed and doesn't
Yeah.
do anything.
Yeah. A
And that
guy was literally,
kind of drives me up the wall a little bit, but I can't get too much into somebody else's program.
well, it's like the word quarry. It has multiple meanings now.
Yeah,
Bandog has multiple meanings. The true meaning is a title dog that is used to catch dangerous game, but now it's starting to also be synonymous with a crossbred Mastiff Pit Bull hybrid, or a Bulldog hybrid. A guy literally was arguing. A guy contacted me yesterday and said, "Hey, can you breed a blue pit bull to a Neapolitan Mastiff?" And I'm like, "No, that's not what I do." And then he said I was unprofessional to say that as a business owner. It was like, wow, you really expect me to go out and get a blue pit bull and a Neapolitan Mastiff and cross them together so you can buy one dog?
right.
That would be the definition of unprofessional.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I have a goal, and it's not blue pit bulls and it's not Neapolitan Mastiffs. But I said, no, I can't do that. And then I explained to him what a band dog really is and
right,
why that's not my goal, that I breed for performance and health. And for 24 hours, this guy now has been blowing up my phone. He finally apologized. I actually just replied to him and said, look, I'm not trying to be rude, but um, you need to do some research. You
right,
need to do some research and learn what a band dog is, because he tried to tell me that all band dogs come from pit bulls. And I was like, that's strange because the band dog existed before the pit bull.
right. Yeah.
To
A lot of
make
people
that
don't know
claim.
that.
Do what?
A lot of people don't know that. Like they don't understand that it's not necessarily more of a breed or a certain cross. It's a title, or it was a title in the beginning.
Yep. And I don't want to be rude to people,
Yeah.
but at some point, it's like when you're finger painting, don't try to go tell Michelangelo how to paint. And I'm not trying to say I'm Michelangelo, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I've been doing this for a long time.
Right. Absolutely. So what was the first dog that was used in the American Sentinel Canine program?
Well, we bought a dog named Leviathan. You may know who Leviathan is. Do you
I
know?
don't
Or
think I think yes, I've seen him. Yeah.
yeah, you've seen him 100 times probably, because if you Google Bandog, you're going to find him.
Right.
And I'll send you a picture of him real quick so they can see who I'm talking about. But Leviathan was one of the first dogs that we got that was actually a band dog, and we acquired him from Vince Haley. And Vince Haley was Elite Canine,
Okay.
and Elite Canine and Joe Lucero were partners.
Mm.
And so, but they had a fallout and went their own ways. And Levi was a dog that we got from him. Let's see here. Here's a picture of Levi. So he was one of the first ones we got. We got him at 7 months of age. So we had a pretty good idea of what he was going to be. Here in that picture there, he's probably about 4 years old or 5 years old. I see he's got a collar on that I made back then. I made some
Yeah, he's
collars.
impressive.
Yeah, he was a nice animal. He had some faults though, like Neapolitan-based dogs. He had some faults,
Yeah.
but he also had some really good attributes. His his stamina was great. His drives were really good. His one fault though is as he got older, he became a little lame on one side, and that's to
Mm.
be that comes from the Neapolitan Mastiff. That was a very common problem that Joe Lucero had. He had problems with hip dysplasia and sound structure.
Yeah.
And Levi ended up getting some lameness when he was about 7 or 8 years old, because of a bad hip. So right off the bat, early in our program, we knew that the structural soundness was important to us. So we've x-rayed every dog that we breed, since
Nice.
then. There's been a couple of dogs that we've x-rayed after the breeding, which is not the right way to do it, but
Yeah.
maybe we just forgot. And I was like, oh man, we didn't we didn't x-ray this dog, and she's in heat now on her second cycle, because I don't really x-ray them until they're grown. I
Yeah.
wait till they get full grown, and then we x-ray them. And if the female's in heat, I don't want to x-ray them while they're in heat, because that could even though it's unlikely to impact the eggs. Remember, those cells are reproducing very rapidly, and exposing radiation to cells that are dividing very rapidly is always a risk in my mind. It may not be that valid of a concern, but it's always a concern to me when the cells are rapidly dividing to expose them to radiation. So that's one reason why I don't x-ray pregnant dogs to see how many pups we have and whatnot. A lot of people do that, but I think that's it is informative, which is good for the mother and it's good for the breeder, but it does expose puppies to radiation, which I prefer to not do unless it's necessary. So I can palpate a dog and see if, like, the purpose of x-raying a mother is to see if there's puppies. You don't want to, like, let's say she has 8 puppies, but she only gives birth to 7. Then you have a retained puppy and you need to get it out for the mother's health. Well, if you know how to palpate the abdomen of a mother, you can feel and see if there's a puppy in there. You just got to work with them carefully and get their abdomen muscles to relax, and you can feel if there's a puppy in there. So I don't tend to x-ray the mothers to count puppies. Let's see, way I diverged there. So yeah, Levi was our first, and then we ended up getting some Whopper bred dogs from Bob Bonacorsi. 2 of them were, well, one of them was pure Whopper, and that was Lucy.
And what breed is that?
It was a Whopper line pit bull, not a true game bred dog. It's what it is, and actually it's debatable if it even has any pit bull in it at all. They hung papers on those dogs. They're American Bulldog and Bull Mastiff, or American Bulldog and Dog de Bordeaux crosses for the most part. But Bob Bonacorsi did breed some pit bull in them. He bred some Red Boy dog into them. Yeah. Grit was a dog that was a half Whopper and half game bred dog. And then Lucy was a pure Whopper dog. And then we had another dog named Ina that was a half Whopper and half. Actually, no, I take that back. She was a 3/4 Whopper dog and a 1/4 game bred dog. Now, those lines have almost been eliminated from the program completely. I would have to really search back to try to find any blood that's in our program today from the Whopper line influence from Lucy. Now, Lucy was a great dog. She really was a great dog. Anything that's in our yard from her, let's say, would go through Bullet to Line Ball, and that was almost eliminated. I don't know if there's any Bullet and Line Ball. That we did have a bitch named Lucille that was down from that. Delilah, maybe some Betty Crocker, and then from Betty Crocker, well, that was Fluffit. Hold on, Betty Crocker. No, Betty Crocker was not that. I have to go back and figure it out. There is some stuff, a little bit of stuff coming down from that, but it's only through a very, very, very small. It's going to be like 2% of the dogs today, maybe. And then Grit was the one that was a Whopper line bred back to a Red Boy dog. So that was going to be 50% game right there, but we're going to be adding a lot more game blood from our other lines over the years. So Grit, if anytime you see Tara, Grit was Tara's mother. Grit was Tara's father, and Tara was the mother to Lynn. So if you see Lynn, which was the mother of Blue Jean, and then Blue Jean was the mother to Justice and Tiggy and Valkyrie. So if you see those dogs, you're going to know that there's a little bit of Grit in there. But again, you're talking about a very small percentage. Yeah. It's going to be down to the 2 or 3% today. So, I typically don't really talk about the Whopper line dogs in our program because for the most part they're obsolete. The mainstay of our program is going to be game bred American Pit Bull Terrier, and then the English Mastiff and Neapolitan Mastiff, and a little bit of Tosa Inu.
Right.
Not much Tosa.
Yeah, I remember you had, it was just one Tosa you owned, right?
Yeah, I worked with a few Tosa, but I only owned personally one.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that Tosa that you owned.
Yeah, Asia was her name. She was an import that we brought in. She was a nice dog. In my opinion, the Tosa people aren't going to like what I have to say about the Tosa, but it's not a game dog. They're a wrestling dog. They're not in my opinion, they're not a fighting dog. They wrestle. If they make noise, they're disqualified. Now I can understand that if you're screaming, but if you're if you're screaming to get away, yeah, that's disqualification. But
Yeah.
what if you're screaming because you want to go in and
Right.
somebody's restraining you? Like if I'm holding a dog back from a hog on a hog hunt, and that dog is screaming for me to let him go, that's not cur-like behavior.
No.
But they want him to be silent, and
Mm.
so and also they allow the dogs to go out of hold to like catch their breath, and that's making a turn.
Wow.
These dogs make turns all day long, and
Yeah.
you know if they're both out of hold, it's ceremonial. It's not real
Yeah.
combat, and so they're cur dogs. They're rough rank dominant curs. They fight for dominance. They don't fight for combat.
Okay. I have to
And
study their fighting style a little bit more. Well, wrestling style. I have to study that a little bit more. I'm real
now,
interested in it.
ironically, the
Hmm.
pit bull Tosa cross. Oh my goodness, those are some devastating animals.
I bet.
Very very committed animals.
Yeah.
The Tosa pit bull cross. It's like they get all the confidence and gladiator instincts from the pit bull, but they get more size and power from the Tosa.
Mm.
In fact, the dog here that's foaming at the mouth in my picture, it's kind of cut off on our
I
screen,
can
but
see. Yeah.
yeah, that's Tara. She is off of Grit in Asia, and
Okay.
so she's a half Tosa and a quarter Red Boy and a quarter Whopper.
Wow.
That was a tough dog.
I bet. So you talked about your English masters. Let's talk about it. I'm real familiar with I'm familiar with one that you were around, Land Caesar, but Eclipse you own. Talk about them too, and some
Yeah,
more
so
if you have experienced them.
sure. Now Eclipse was definitely the best Mastiff I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Um, we I'm breeding for protection work and as a family companion guardian. That's my goal.
Right.
But the reason we do hog hunting is to kind of test their ability to sustain combat that fights back. Because
Yeah.
when you're doing protection work, it's unethical to really put a serious level of force against a dog.
Right.
And also people are wearing a suit or a sleeve or something that's protecting them,
Yeah.
and that does two things. One, it creates a platform that's not a fair combat
Mm.
because we're secured, and it also creates somewhat of a game type thing if you're not a good decoy. Now, a
Yeah.
person that's a good decoy knows how to mentally and physically stress an animal without causing injury. One of the things that I need to make a video about is what I'm going to call a pre-exhaustion test, where you need to exhaust the dog. So first of all, you teach the dog to turn on, and once you teach the dog to turn on, whether it for protection work or whatever, and the dog understands it, then you do an exhaustion routine with the animal to make it get tired.
Yeah.
And after you get the dog tired, you test the dog again to see if
Mm.
they want to go even when they're tired.
Right.
Because this is a way of testing gameness to a degree. It's not the same thing, but it's
Yeah.
very few game dogs quit because of pain. What makes them quit is they run out of air
Right.
and they get hot. And so I want to see, does the dog display determination when it's out of air, when it's hot?
Yeah.
Now you have to be careful doing that, because if you have an animal if you're inexperienced, I know some people that have tried to do this with American bulldogs. I do not recommend it. If you with an American bulldog, you can kill your dog doing that,
Yeah.
because it can go into get hyper, can run hot, overheat,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then the diaphragm, um, it goes into a spastic type of breathing behavior. And I just don't recommend doing a pre-exhaustion test with an
Yeah.
animal that's prone to overheating. They don't have the
Right.
palate for cooling off. They don't have the palate and body for respiration. They're a super muscular dog, very, very powerful, and they work off of anaerobics, not aerobics. And because of that, you can put them in a state with a high drive American bulldog that can cost it its life. And even if it wants to quit, it's now reached a point it's too late. You can't get it
Right.
back, especially if you're in a hot environment like Mississippi.
Yeah.
But anyway, I bring that up because I'm looking for a determined animal that will stay determined even in serious combat.
Yeah.
And I knew that the Neapolitan Mastiff was prone to have a lot of issues with it. There's a lot of health problems with Neapolitan Mastiff. People talk about the Neapolitan Mastiff being the best Mastiff. I can't help but think, how much experience do you really have with Mastiffs? I mean, yes, they have good bonding traits. Some of
Right.
them do good bonding traits with their owners, but they also oftentimes tend to be nervous. Like a lot of cane corsos, they tend to be
Mm.
nervous. They tend to be defensive and fearful and insecure. And
Yeah.
a lot of people confuse defense and insecurity. Sometimes you can have confident defense, but sometimes you have defense that's fear-based and it's insecure.
Right.
And that might work in a home protection situation where a dog is more confident in their home. But when you take them out of their home, those insecurities can make a dog run away.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so I was looking for a very confident dog. I called up this Mastiff breeder. I mean, I'd been searching for Mastiffs. And I called up this Mastiff breeder that had 28 Mastiffs. And I was interested in buying a pup, and was talking to him and describing what I was looking for. And a light bulb went off in his head and said, "Hey, you wouldn't want an adult dog, would you?" I was like, "Yeah, that'd be perfect because it's going to save me a bunch of time."
Right.
He goes, I said, "Why? Why do you ask?" He says, "Well, he had this bitch. Her name was Running Bear's Shadow.
Mm.
Now, since Eclipse is a giant shadow, we changed her name to Eclipse when we got
Gotcha.
her. But her name, her AKC name was Running Bear's Shadow.
Okay.
And he had 28 Mastiff type dogs. And I was like, well, what makes you think that she's going to have the traits that I'm looking for?" He
Right.
said, "Well, she's 4.5 years old. She's strong as an ox." On his website, it said she was 190 pounds. When I was talking to him, he said she was 180. When I
Mm.
drove out there to get her, he said she was 170. I'm like, man,
Oh man.
this dog's losing weight fast. I got home. I got home and weighed her, and she was about 160.
Okay.
And she was clearly 10 pounds overweight. Her honest weight was 150 pounds.
Mm.
I
Okay.
see that happen time and time again. People are
Yeah.
always adding. This guy added 40 pounds to his dog. In shape, she was 150 pounds.
Yeah.
In shape, she's 150 pounds.
That's a big difference.
He said she was on the website 190, but she weighed 160 when I got her, but she was 10 pounds overweight. So I don't
Right.
count like, to me, if you were looking at me and I go step on a scale and I weigh 215, that doesn't mean I'm a 215-pound man. What it means is, in reality, I'm a 180-pound man that's carrying 35 pounds of weight that I shouldn't be carrying.
Right.
But that's how I see that a lot. But anyway, it wasn't her size that made her great. He said she doesn't. I told him, I said, I'm not looking for an animal that starts trouble, but when trouble comes their way, I want them to end it.
Right.
You know, a dog that I use it to release on a hog, it has to end the hog. If a person breaks in my house, it has to be willing to end that perpetrator. Because somebody might say, well, that's terrible. Why don't you stop the dog? What if I'm not here, but my child is?
Right.
If I'm not here and my child is, then the best thing for my child to do is get to safety.
Yeah.
And if that dog quits, then I'm risking my child's life. So
Right.
I need a dog that is confident enough to remain engaged and finish the task. And he said, well, she's never started a fight with another dog, but she's been in 4 fights with dogs that were bigger than her, and she's killed 3 of them and almost killed the 4th one.
Oh man.
And so she killed a Rottweiler, she killed a Mastiff dog, she killed an American Bulldog Great Dane cross, and I can't remember what the 4th one was. And despite that, she was stable with dogs. She never
Wow.
started a fight. And so I was like, this sounds like a good dog that's stable but determined. So we went out and we got her, brought her home, and I remember we have videos of her on a treadmill, or no, we have pictures of her on a treadmill. This was back in like 2003.
Before
Now,
I was alive.
do what?
Before I was alive.
Oh, wow. And
Yeah.
so in 2003, digital cameras existed, but the
Mm.
quality was terrible. It was like looking at giant pixels, you know.
Oh man.
So we didn't get a lot of video of her. I've got it on VHS. I got a lot of video on VHS. I told my wife one of the things I want for if she wants to do something cool for me for my birthday or something, she can get those VHS to convert them to digital, because I'd love to have that old digital footage, or that old video footage that we had of our foundation dogs that we have on VHS, get it converted. So that was a beast of a dog. I remember I would drive around on my tractor cutting the property, and the animal, if something big like a it was not a big tractor, it was a small tractor, with lawnmower tractor, but it had a rotary cutter behind it. We'd be cutting the grass out there, and the dog, I remember her in a kennel, and this is in Mississippi, and it's 95 degrees here a lot.
Yeah.
Sometimes 100 degrees. And I'd be cutting the grass on that tractor and just all amazed, looking over my shoulder, concerned about her well-being, because the whole time I was on that tractor, and I might be cutting grass for 4 hours. We have 9 acres out here.
Wow.
And the whole time I was on that tractor, she'd be running the kennel or running a chain. Boom, 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 trying to get the tractor. She just hated that tractor. And I'd be turning around looking over, waiting for her to lay down, because I thought she's going to have a heat stroke. I'm going to have to go over there and hose her off. Well, the first couple of times that I saw her do this, we wouldn't just keep pressuring her. I'd go over there and cool her off, make sure she doesn't get hot. But after I do this time and time again, because I had this dog for years, right? I begin to think, well, that's just the way she is. And I've never seen an English Mastiff that can literally work for hours and hours, that's 150 pounds in 95-degree weather. This was really, really a special female.
It's impressive.
Yeah, so we bred her and to Sorrel's Captain Skip, and that's what became the foundation of what we are today, with the Sorrel's dogs and the English Mastiff, to make like Preacher Man and Bandit and Gator, a lot of those dogs that we had that really built what we are.
So, do you credit her like her characteristics that were unheard of in her breed? You credit that to some of her pedigree as far as the deer one's kennel blood? Can you talk about that and Tobin Jackson?
Yeah, absolutely. So Tobin Jackson was a legend as far as Mastiffs go. He bred the English Mastiffs. He got kicked out of the AKC because he ended up getting busted for crossbreeding. Well, he wasn't trying to breed what they wanted. He was trying to breed what he wanted.
Right.
And he was trying to breed a superior animal. And some people claim that he bred Pressa into it. I don't know about that. But he also had Neapolitan Mastiff. He may have had Cane Corso. I'm not sure about that. There's arguments over whether it was Cane Corso or Pressa. I don't try to get too much into the historian aspect of it. And the reason why I don't is there are people out there that are historians that know more about the history and lineage of dogs than I do. I've noticed that a lot of the great historians, and I'm not trying to bust anybody's bubble, a lot of times are not dogmen. There's very few dogmen that are real historians, because dogmen are hands-on type of people. Instead of reading about it, they want to do it. And now there's a time and place for both. It's good. In my opinion, every dogman should be at least a little bit of a historian, but maybe not an author. Let the other. If you want to get into arguing about stuff that happened 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 1,000 years ago, these dogs used in Roman gladiator times, you're talking about thousands of years ago. Who cares? What do we have in front of us? We can't breed the dogs from thousands of years ago. We need to look at what the dogs are in front of us. So when I evaluate a dog, I'm looking at the dog in front of me. I'm looking at its parents. And then beyond that, I look at the man behind the dog, because I can't always see the grandparents and the great-grandparents. Now, sometimes I can with video technology, but the man behind the dog will tell you what they're breeding for. And, if they have a high cull rate, then somebody might say that's bad. Not necessarily. That could mean they have a high standard. Yeah,
it's true.
A person with a low cull rate may have a high, a lot of good dogs, or they may just have a very low standard. So you got to look at the man and find out, do they have a high standard or do they have a low standard? And then if they have a high standard, I want a breeder that has a high standard and meets that standard a lot. And then raises their standard to always try to improve the dogs. And when you find a good dog from a good pedigree from behind a good man, that's about as far as you can go. I mean, we're looking
Yeah.
at dogs today, the legends, if you look at Davis's Boomerang, that was in like the late 60s, early 70s. Really, we're going to be worried about something that was, 50 years ago?
Yeah.
Now, you might think, well, 50 years ago is not that long ago. Remember, dogs breed every 2 or 3 years. So you're
Right.
talking about 25 generations. In human terms, that's how many generations? That would be 25. Let's just say multiply 25 by 20, or let's just say multiply 30 by 25. That's 750 years ago for human terms.
Wow. So yeah, it really doesn't matter to
Yeah.
us now.
Yeah, we need to be looking at the dogs, their parents, their grandparents, and the man behind it, or
Right.
the woman behind it. If it's a woman, that's cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of women, you should try to interview um, Larry Hansen or Stephanie Lamp. Do you know who Stephanie Lamp is?
I have to do my research. I don't.
Yeah, on Facebook, it's Kimberlou. Man, she
Okay.
is dominating the ADBA and some pit bull stuff.
Got you.
There's like 4 or 5 top dog ADBA champions in the pit bulls they do weight pull, treadmill race. There's a series of events that they get for
Yeah.
top dog. Out of the 4 or 5, she owns 3 or 4.
Wow. Wow.
She,
Okay.
she's a really cool person too.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do my research. Now I'm gonna have to hurry up and get on it because some people watch my stuff and still interviews. So
Yep,
let me
there you
be
go.
sure to hit her up.
Yeah, she's
Um.
a really nice lady too.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely look into her. I appreciate that. Um. What was I gonna say? Lance Caesar. I don't want to kind of drag too much on the Mastiff topic, but I'm a Mastiff guy at the end of the day. So
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Lance Caesar is going to be more famous than Eclipse because of digital technology.
yeah.
He was not as good a dog as she is.
Mm,
He would work almost as good as her,
right.
but the problem with Caesar is a higher cull rate. So his ability to reproduce what he was
Yep.
not at the same level as Eclipse.
Gotcha.
Eclipse, when we bred her, she was throwing fire, but when we bred when we bred Caesar, it was like hit or miss. You had to cull more of them. You could get great dogs out of it,
Yeah.
but you needed to select wisely.
Right. Okay. What? So what do you think? You just think he was just a diamond in the rough as far as his genetics and his capabilities, also?
Well, it's probably because of the Tobin Jackson. Tobin Jackson
Okay.
lived for performance. He
Yeah.
bred for performance, and Eclipse had a lot of Tobin Jackson blood in her,
Right.
but Caesar did not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why you got to look at the man behind the pedigree.
Right. I got you. Okay. And then Achilles. Let's talk about Achilles.
Achilles was a great Neapolitan Mastiff, but he's still a Neapolitan Mastiff.
Right.
So
Yeah.
when in fact, of all of the years that I've bred dogs, the 26 years that I've bred dogs, and the 2,000 dogs that I've produced, over the 26 years, we've had very, very, very few cases of hip dysplasia.
Mm.
Every single one of them's related to Achilles. So we have to be, even though he was a great dog, the breed is prone to it. Something like 40% of the Neapolitan Mastiffs have hip dysplasia.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, even though he himself may not have had it, maybe his parents did, maybe his grandparents did. Again,
Right.
40% of those dogs have hip dysplasia. So, I remember one dog we had. Do you remember Blue Jean? Do you know who Blue Jean is?
Yeah. I've heard. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So Blue Jean was a daughter of Eclipse, or excuse me, a daughter of Achilles.
Yeah.
We bred Achilles to Lynn. That made Blue Jean, and then she had a sister that was owned by David Ishii. It was a real nice bitch, but she was more Mastiff type than Blue Jean. Blue Jean was kind of a high performance athlete, a little tighter frame, good stamina, good agility. And then her sister that David had, she had more of a massive frame, and he was breeding Mastiff dogs, and I was breeding performance dogs. So we split them that way. And then she was a real nice bitch. When she got grown, very first time I evaluated her, she did great. Blue Jean did great. And then I had a male that was a great temperament. His name was Rhino. Only dog that I ever raised that I ended up having to put down at a young age because
Mm.
at 7 months of age he had hip dysplasia.
Oh man.
So yeah, and that was a terrible case, you know. So that's what happens with Neapolitan Mastiff. If I was to start my program over, I would probably just use American Pit Bull Terrier and English Mastiff, but just
Yeah.
find good ones.
Gotcha.
Yep, and you
Okay.
can get good dogs off of them, but you got to filter it. And
Right.
you know the reason our hip dysplasia is so low is because we check for that and we eliminate it. When we see
Yeah.
one, we're not going to play games and gamble with that. We're going to eliminate it from the program.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Um. So I was on one of your lives one time. I think I asked the question, "What mastiff do you believe has the best pain threshold and has that mental toughness to take pressure and still supersede it and take advantage of the situation?"
There's a lot of tough mastiffs. I would take Great Danes off the table though immediately. They're
Mm.
fragile. They have that sighthound blood in them. You know,
Yeah,
I think the Great Dane Pit Bull cross is a good combination.
I've never
But
seen it.
you've never seen a Great Dane Pit Bull cross.
I haven't. No.
Yeah, but also the Great Dane English Mastiff cross can be very phenomenal.
Okay.
Um, let me type in. Let me remember this dog's name. Uh, Entertain your guests for a minute while I try to think.
Shout out to David Ishii. You know, and just stay tuned, man. We got a lot coming. We got a lot going on. Big announcement coming soon. I say next weekend. Next weekend, I'm gonna make this announcement. Something big going on. Fast.
Let me ask my wife the name of that
Okay.
dog. I'm trying to remember.
Hit the like button for me, y'all. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to Lee. Subscribe to C.D.C. Follow us on Instagram. Get some merch from Lee. He got merch. Um, hey, get a puppy from him. Don't waste his time though. You know, if you gotta ask your wife, ask her. If you really gotta ask her beforehand.
Yeah. All right. So I was trying to remember the name of the dog because he's not in our program anymore. We got rid of him.
Yeah.
But my wife remembered his name. So let me pull him up. This is a Great Dane Pit Bull cross that we had back in the let's see, but this would have been back in 2003 or so. So he was
Let's
a
see.
Great Dane Pit Bull cross. The problem with him is light bone, fragile, but very
Mhm.
athletic. Yeah,
Wow.
that was Blackjack. He was off a Chinaman bred back to a Great Dane. Not Chinaman, but Chinaman blood, Frisco blood,
Yeah.
bred back to a Great Dane.
Yeah, that's
Very
real impressive.
athletic, and we ended up breeding him one time to Eclipse, and we got some nice dogs off of that. But we had other lines that were better. And
Yeah.
when you're limited on how many dogs you can keep, we're going to call the ones that are at the lower half and keep the
Yeah.
better half. And Eclipse with Captain Skip was just superior.
Wow.
But as far
Um.
as tough mastiffs go, Neapolitan can have a high pain threshold. English mastiffs can have a high pain threshold, but it's going to come down to the individual dog. I'm sure
Mm,
there's Borbles. When you have a thick hide like that, and I'm sure hormones have a lot to do with it as well, because when you're talking about a massive dog, you're dealing with growth hormone and things like that. And I
right.
wonder what that does with the nerve endings. You know, There's,
Never thought about that.
yeah, you can do a quick experiment next time you're around some women and men, and your viewers can do this with their women and men in their household. Get you a couple of pencils or pens and sharpen up your pencils real sharp.
Yeah.
Get two of them and put them on the back of your arm and
Mhm.
touch them at the same time and pull them up at the same time.
Yeah.
And if you do this with women and men, women can feel them when they get closer together than man can. A man's distance between the two pencils will be about twice as far apart before they'll feel it.
Mm,
As they like, if you have them really far apart, like if I'm touching one way down here and the other one
yeah.
way up here, then yeah, we'll feel the two at the same time. But if you do them at the exact same time and lift them at the same time, women have more nerve endings in their arm. Well, that's probably because of our the men were gladiators in the past. So if you're
Yeah.
real sensitive to pain, you're probably going to quit because it hurts.
Right.
I believe that men truly have a higher pain threshold because I believe testosterone causes a depletion in the nerve endings, and there's actually research behind that. That's just not a self-proclaimed thing. There's actually studies that show that when you increase testosterone, you increase aggression, and it interferes with your sensitivity on the back of your arm and stuff like that.
Mm.
And so I think that there's something going on there with some of the Mastiff dogs. When you have a lot of muscle mass, a lot of strength, a lot of power, a lot of size, they're probably losing some of that pain sensitivity. And you can see that with pit bulls too.
Mm. I just took us a science class right quick. What was I finna ask you? Okay, so you're an older program. You've been in it for a while, but you create crossbred. Well, you've been producing off of crossbred dogs and crossbred breedings to create a line of dogs. Why is it that you still don't use the excuse of being an older program? You don't use that as an excuse to have unhealthy dogs or dogs with many problems as far as hips or weaker frames or bad structure. Why don't you use that as an excuse like people of today do?
What do you mean they do it? Use an excuse? What's the excuse? That they just got started, or they've been doing it for a while?
They've been doing it for a while, or as far as like we didn't have health testing back then. Structure didn't matter back then. It was more about the dog's mind or its capability of work or its want to of work.
Well,
They just. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, it's all cool. Thank you. Well, look at the breeds that have the lowest hip dysplasia on the planet. You're going to find dogs like the Greyhound, the
Yeah.
American Pit Bull Terrier from game bred lines. Guess what? The show bred lines have a lot of hip dysplasia. The game bred
Really.
lines don't. Oh well, this I'm talking about in the 70s and 80s and 90s.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Now the game bred dogs today are going to be probably have more problems than they did back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Now somebody might say, well, they didn't have performance testing. I mean, they didn't have health testing. Yes, they did. Their health testing was not done on a machine. It was done in the field. So if you can't recover after you worked, you probably have a bad hip. You probably have a bad joint. So their health testing was you go work the dog and then you let the dog rest. And then after it rests, you get up and see if they recovered. If they're
Right.
sore, then they probably, when you get old, it takes longer to recover.
Yeah.
Well, if you're born with a problem like a bad hip, that's like the same as being old.
Right.
So you're going to take longer to recover. So there's a reason the healthiest animals that are in existence are performance tested. And people will look for these health tests to replace performance tests. And they say they're going to do both, but they don't do both.
Right.
How many people are really working their dogs? Really working their dogs?
Not a lot.
Yeah. And so what they do is they're like, well, I do health testing and performance. Okay. So you work your dog once a year and maybe,
Yeah.
or you just make claims. Oh, he barks in the vehicle, so he's doing protection work. It's not the same as hunting a hog, having to go out and run 10 miles and then
Right.
doing it again tomorrow.
Yeah.
And doing it again tomorrow. Because
Yeah.
you had a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday hunt 3 days in a row. It's not the same.
No.
So don't compare barking in a car as real performance testing. You have to be an athlete to do that performance testing and recover. But so they want to justify the health test. Now I have no problem with health testing. I think like using Embark or an X-ray. We do X-rays. I don't use a lot of Embark because, and I have nothing against Embark, but we need to call it what it is. Embark is a small glimpse of one part of a genome.
Right.
Now, even if you get the entire genetic code, you're assuming that they know every disease for the breed, which they don't. They may know a couple of diseases for a breed, but they don't know every disease.
Right.
And then you also have to know the genetic markers for that disease.
Yeah.
Plus, let's just say hypothetically, I'm going to put a hypothetical out here. Let's just say I have a dog that has 3 legs and it's the fastest dog that I have. Now when I make up a crazy statement like that, somebody might say, well, that's not realistic. You're right. But I'm looking at extremes. The fastest dog I have is one extreme. Three legs is the other extreme. These two things contradict each other. And we can look at extremes to define truth. What do you know about that dog? Well, let's say it has three legs because of a genetic disease. Okay. Let's say it's the fastest ability for another reason, genetic strength.
Right.
Do you include that dog in your breeding program? Yes or no?
I would, yeah.
Right. And the reason why is because you're capturing something that he has or she has that nobody else has,
Right.
that's so strong, it's able to overcome the genetic disease of three legs that you can fix very easily.
Right.
So, so when you're performance testing, you're capturing all the good traits, and then you just eliminate the bad through
Right.
selective breeding. And when people embark, they're looking at a disease as if, okay, well, this dog has four legs on the test, so it's good. That doesn't mean the dog's going to work.
Right.
The dog might want to quit, run to the hills. It could have a heart cardiovascular disease that's never been identified yet. I mean, it could be allergic. It could be plagued with poor nervous system, a poor circulatory system, a poor endocrine system, a poor uh, recovery system for building back muscle mass or joint tissue damage,
Yeah.
whatever. There's so many other things that could be a factor that they're like, well, this embark test says it's good, so it's good. How do you know it's good? You're using that to replace a performance test that you never did. So you don't know. And this is something that people get a God complex and they think that they're more knowledgeable than they really are. We
Mm.
need to be humble and let the truth present itself. We need to test the animal and let the truth reveal itself.
Right. Oh, that's a great answer. Real great answer. Uh, let's talk about the game bred Bandog. What it is. Things that make it stand out from maybe other Bandog programs or even other breeds that are pure. You know, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I think that I appreciate you bringing that up because that's something that I need to make more effort on defining. A lot of people hear the term game bred Bandog and
Yeah.
they think that I'm claiming that the Bandogs are all game, and that's not what it means.
Right.
What it means is they are founded upon game bred lines of dogs. We are using the game bred American Pit-Bull Terrier to create a line or family of dogs in hopes that we can capture the gameness gene from those dogs. But that doesn't mean we're gonna. We have to still test those dogs and then cull by looking for the individuals that are able to excel in performance under extraneous situations, which
Right.
very, very seldom happen. I mean, you might go hog hunting 20 times and only one time was gameness even close to being tested, because all
Mm.
the other times you released the dog, you ran in there right afterwards, the dog grabbed the hog, subdued the hog, you grabbed the hog, subdued the dog, and another person or hog, and then another person comes in and stabs the hog, and the fight only lasted a couple of minutes. Well, you're not going to test gameness in that situation.
No.
It's too short of a fight. The dog never got hot, the dog never got tired, the dog never got injured.
Right.
um, Gameness is not going to be tested in that situation. But once in a while, a hog can test a dog that doesn't happen in 5 minutes. It may have been an hour and 5 minutes. And maybe the dog did get hurt, and maybe the dog was tired, and the dogs continued to stay and hold. Now it's still not the same as a match dog, but it's also displayed a degree of toughness and determination. Gameness is a synonym with willingness. And you've probably heard somebody say, hey, do you want to go do that? Like, let's say you're going to go kayaking and they're going to go off the waterfall and it's a short waterfall. And you're like, I'm not going off the waterfall.
Yeah.
And somebody else says, well, hey, I'm game. That just means
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm willing. It
Right.
means I'm willing to do it.
Yeah.
So that's what gameness is. It's the willingness to continue in the task despite the hurdles that you're going to have to overcome.
Okay. What's some let's talk about the Sentinel, and just for maybe somebody that doesn't know about the American Sentinel, let's talk about its characteristics, how it works, what drives it may use, or what drives it comes out of in front of a man and in front of a hog. Let's talk about all of that.
Sure. One other quick thing I want to divert back to that other question you had
Mm-hmm.
about game bred band dogs is the reason we say game bred band dogs is a lot of people are breeding American bullies or bull herders, and they're taking them to mastiff breed dogs, and that's just a different direction. That's not what we're using. We're using the game bred American Pit Bull Terrier. So
Right.
I just want to clearly define. I don't believe that the best band dogs are going to come from these other breeds. I think the best band dogs are going to come from the game bred American Pit Bull Terrier. And so it's essential to me. So that's how we define it.
Yeah.
As far as your next question, what drives do they work in? All drives are important when in balance. You've heard of the yin and the yang?
Yeah. Of
Yeah.
course.
So there's optimize. You rob Peter to pay Paul, and it comes with trade-offs. Now, obviously, we would love to have 100 go on prey, 100 go on defense, 100 go on fight, 100 go on sex drives when you were trying to do breeding. 100% on all these things would be great. But sometimes when you optimize one, something else suffers.
Right.
And so we try to balance that thing and look for the ideal combination. And I have found that while you can find confident defensive dogs, there's so many people out there that don't know how to look at defense drive and recognize the difference between fear and confidence, because the behaviors are very similar.
Right.
You have to start looking at little signs like eye movement. So if a dog does this with its eyes where it looks away, why did it look away? Did it look away because it's taking its eyes off of you? Or did it look away because someone over there moved and it's trying to watch both of you?
Right.
That's two different behaviors. Even though the behavior is same, there's two different motives. One is I'm confidently watching you and I'm confidently watching that one also. The other one is I'm unconfident. I'm not confident watching you, so I'm going to look away out of insecurity, but I need to keep my eye on you just in case you come in because I need to know if I have to run. So it's looking for an exit. One is confidently observing, and the other one's looking for an exit. A lot of people don't know how to distinguish that, or the foot placement. If the foot is going forward so it can push back, or if the foot is in a position where it can lunge forward. So you got to be able to look at the feet and the body position to see if this dog is lunging forward or crouching to get to submit. Because you can crouch to jump or you can crouch to submit.
Yeah.
Two very similar behaviors, but a lot of people don't know how to read the difference.
Right.
And so I'm looking at hackles and things like that. For example, if you see a dog and you start the dog's training and the hackles go up right at the beginning, but as you work the dog, the hackles go down, I'm okay with that. Because initial hackles is a huff and puff and bluff to make the animal look bigger. But when the fight starts, if that intimidation factor goes away because now they're fighting, they're not trying to intimidate, that's okay because they've chose to go. The dog that started the fight, and then as the fight occurs, the hackles come up, I'm not okay with that. Because now the dog chose to fight, but then when the fight got tough, it now tries to intimidate, which means it ain't really about that life.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a difference. So some people want to make simple rules like, oh, the dog's hackles were up. Well, when and why? You need to know when, and you need to know why. Well, and this is something that requires an ability to read the animal, and some people don't have it. You can explain, oh, the hackles went up. One person hears fear. Another person hears, maybe it's not fears. Did the hackles go back down? Right. As the dog continues to engage in combat, I want to see the hackles relax because a dog that's comfortable in combat is not going to try to intimidate.
Right.
Now it's on now.
Yeah.
I'm relaxed now. This is what I'm about. So you have to, it's little details like that a lot of people don't understand. And then prey drive is important because it makes the training so much easier. The dog, when you're in prey, you're not mad. Because you can't be mad at the rabbit.
No.
You can be mad at the bear, but you're not mad at the rabbit.
Right.
And so when you're in a heightened state, like this is a well-known fact through behavioral science, that when adrenaline goes really high, there's a couple of things that occur. You get tunnel vision, which means you lose your peripheral vision awareness. You're focused on what's dead center, straight ahead. And you lose pain sensitivity, and you also oftentimes get auditory exclusion. Auditory exclusion means you don't hear things that are going on around you.
I seen that in the video you sent me. It was your decoy, and you were handling one of your dogs, and he was agitating the dog, and then the dog kind of was like jumping up, and you were like, "Be careful, or he'll grab your face. Watch your face." And he was just into it. He was just into it, just with the dog, agitating the dog. And you said you didn't even hear me, did you? And he was like, "No, no, I didn't." But he said, "I heard you now because of the adrenaline and the tunnel vision."
Right. And so when you have that adrenaline state, we know that learning declines
Yeah.
because you're not observing the environment carefully.
Right.
And so that can be a trait of good, and it can be a trait of bad, because you're also not going to be a pain aware. I know that I come in sometimes and I'll be bleeding because I bumped into something and I don't even know that I'm bleeding because I'm
Right.
out there working.
Yeah.
And my wife says, "Oh, you're bleeding," and I'm like, "Oh, look, I am bleeding. I didn't realize it." And because when we're doing something, we sometimes get injured and we don't even notice until later.
Mm.
Um, the If you imagine that you're in a pursuit, I mean, I've seen animals that have gone hog hunting. They come out of the woods and they ran through so many thorns that they have cuts on their face and whatnot from the thorns.
Yeah.
You know, a single thorn typically at most might make a tiny little scratch, but when you get scratched on top of a scratch on top of a scratch on top of a scratch, it starts to make a cut. I mean, you
Right.
can lick yourself enough that dogs get bored. They lick themselves enough that they create a wound. That can happen if you have a high drive dog that's bored to death and anxious. Maybe you got a little chihuahua or something that's real anxious. It just licks itself till it's got a wound.
Yeah.
They don't even notice it, you know. So I like prey drive because the dog's able, even though prey drive in the fight can be adrenaline, prior to the fight,
Mm.
it's analytical. They're
Mm.
thinking. And so it's easy to train a dog that's got a lot of prey drive.
Yeah.
Um, you know, depending on the situation. If
Right.
you wait till too late and they're already half cocked and loaded, you know, then they may not be thinking a lot. But you can use that bait prior to being full on deck, you know,
Yeah.
and use that to really go a long way in training.
Mm. Okay. What about fight drive?
Yeah, some people say fight drive doesn't exist. I believe it does exist. Um, I don't like to call people out, but I think men that have been in a serious fight would know that fight drive exists,
Yeah.
and you don't have to have a lot of them to know. Um, I'm not going to claim to be some great MMA fighter. Okay, there's other people that are MMA fighters, but I can recall one time when somebody broke in my dorm, and I had to fight two people, and one of them grabbed me from behind and held my arms down, and the other one punched me in the face. When that happened, I didn't feel anything. I just got mad. And when I got mad, I thought to myself, and might sound strange, but this is what I thought. Who are you to touch me in a violent way without my permission?
Yeah.
And somebody might say, you literally thought that? I thought it so fast, it was like head back. But by the time I was from here to here, that thought had finished. Because I was like, who are you to touch me in a violent way without my consent? You know, from in that quick,
Yeah.
boom. Because when you're in high school and junior high school, you box your friends and you play, and if you get punched, so be it. They had your permission. You're not mad, you're just sparring. But when somebody breaks into your home and they hit you, it's different because you're not
Yeah.
even supposed to be in here.
Right.
And literally, fortunately for me, things turned out to well for me that day, and I ended up being victorious. But I'm going to stay humble there because it could have easily gone the other way.
Right.
And so I say that because I know that there are times that while that may be defense to a degree, it's you have to be careful because defense wants to stop the threat. And when I was victorious that day, which I got lucky, I had some martial arts experience, and the guy that grabbed my hand, The one that punched me, I did a front kick and hit him right in his sternum. So he was done. He was down on the ground and he was hyperventilating, trying to breathe. Then the guy that was holding me, I bent over, lifted his feet up off the ground, shook real hard to one side. He slid around on the side and I punched him in the face and he was done. And so they were on the ground and it happened literally in like 10 seconds or 5 seconds. It was over so fast. It was crazy. But I remember thinking to myself, I want to beat the crap out of them. Well, that's not defense anymore. Now it's prey. Right? They're both on the ground, and I have to stop myself legally so I don't end up. You might think, well, why would you have to stop if they're in your home? I was in college in a dorm room, so I have to stop myself legally so I'm not going to end up getting kicked out of college or whatever would happen if I was to just continue with my violence, even though they were in my room. I say that because when you have a situation that relates to that, defense, pure defense, just wants to stop the threat. Right. But if there's a desire to continue to eliminate the threat's existence after the threat is no longer a threat, what is that? Is that prey? And somebody might say, well, you're looking at your threats right there. They're still a threat if they get up. Maybe. But let's reevaluate this from an animal perspective. I like to look at things from a natural world. And in nature, prey drive should not exist in herbivores.
Yeah.
Because herbivores don't hunt, right?
They just want to survive.
Right. So you can understand defense in herbivores, but prey drive shouldn't exist.
No.
However, it does.
Yeah.
Look at the elephant in musk, or the buck during rut. Elephants and deer are both herbivores.
Yeah.
But when they're in the breeding season, they literally, before the females come in heat, they literally seek other males to run out of their territory. And you can say that that's defense, again, of territory, or defense of their right to procreate. But they're actively looking for the combat.
Prey.
So they're not looking to just defend the threat that comes in. They actually expand their territory
to look for it.
Right. So that is seeking combat. And animals that are in that state, there's been many, many, many people that have been killed by elephants in musk.
Yeah.
And so that's not just about breeding rights here, because they're killing human beings too. They have this testosterone and endorphins and epinephrine and all these things that are occurring. Epinephrine is adrenaline. All these things that are occurring where they not only seek combat, but they also enjoy it.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think that there's something to be there. I mean, there was an MMA fighter. I can't remember his name. I need to find out who this was because I reference him from time to time, but I'll never forget it. He got punched in the face and he was rocked, dizzy. But I saw his face. He smiled. And he came in and the opponent was coming at him real aggressive because he just rocked him and he saw the guy injured. And the guy smiled, and even though he couldn't stand up, he punched the guy and reversed it. I mean, he ended up winning. He ended up knocking the guy out while he was almost knocked out.
Wow.
And I think that is a level of fight drive where they're confident in combat. You might think, well, he wasn't angry. You're right, he wasn't angry, but he enjoys. I think fight drive is a hard one. Sometimes they may enjoy it, sometimes they may not. But regardless, they're comfortable either way.
Right.
And they want to eliminate their opponent. Defense wants to stop a threat. Prey wants to eliminate the target because they're going to eat it.
Right.
Possibly. It's not always food related. Some people think it's always food related. It's not always food related. A full cat will still kill a mouse.
Yeah.
Even though it's full.
Right.
So it's not always food related. But I believe in fight drive. You come and harm my daughter, even though you're gone, it's a week later. If I find out about it a week later, I'm coming to hunt you.
I'm coming to get you. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not defense because the threat is over.
Right.
But I'm seeking combat because I'm pissed.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about this. Civilians and sending their dogs. What do you think about it?
Time and place. Some people say never send your dog. Well, okay, let's say I'm at a park and my daughter is playing in the lake or something like that,
Mhm.
and I'm reading a book, and I'm oblivious, and I didn't notice it. And then perpetrator comes over and says, "Hey, that father's not watching that child. Like, I think I can slip in and grab that kid."
Mm.
Or maybe an alligator swims up next to the kid.
Yeah.
So something happens, and I'm sending my dog.
Right.
Why? Because it's going to take me too long to get there.
Yeah.
And somebody might say, "Well, that's exposing you to a legal better to be judged by 6 than carried, or judged by 12 than carried by 6."
It's true. Yeah.
So, there's a time and place, but it's not for running your mouth. If
Yeah.
if I think people are too sensitive, and they worry about words too much, and pride and ego takes place in men. And a lot of people are afraid if somebody calls them a inappropriate statement,
Yeah.
they're gonna run in there and have to show that they're a man and that they can
Right.
defend their honor, because how dare you call me this or call me that? You send a dog for something like that, yeah, you're going to jail.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You can only stop a threat,
Right.
and it needs to be a real threat. It doesn't need to be about ego or proving something. That's what honestly, I've had people call me up before and threaten me, and I just stay on the phone patiently, let them say what they want to say, because I'm going to be a little bit egotistical because I don't know how else to justify what happened. Bruce Lee probably got challenged a lot
Yeah.
because he was well known in his martial arts. I'm well
Right.
known in the Bandog world. There's some people that I've never done business with. They call me up and they want to tell me certain things, and I just let them finish their sentence. And after they finish their sentence, I said, "Well, what can I do for you? How can I help you?" And they get mad and hang up. Well, those types of people, in my opinion, are very weak, very emotionally insecure. Because if you're really confident, then you don't call people up and threaten them. You have a conversation.
Right.
And I've noticed that people that say, "I'm going to send my dog," well, they're probably not the smartest people in the world. You can only send your dog when the situation dictates it.
Right.
Do you know who Thunder Ranch is?
I haven't heard of them. No.
All right. Well, it's a firearms guy. A lot of people
Okay.
don't know Thunder Ranch, but it's a firearms guy. I think that he has a really good video, and we have it on one of our YouTube videos, a clip where he says this stuff. And he says, he's talking about firearms. Well, when we're talking about dogs in defensive situations, a lot we can learn from the firearm industry. It's guns in defensive situations.
Mm-hmm.
He says, "Well, why did you shoot my client when he was down?" Like, let's say you're being judged for a crime of
Yeah.
using your firearm in a self-defense situation. "Well, he was down. Why did you shoot him again?" Well, because he was going for his gun.
Right.
"Why did you shoot him in the back?" Because he was reaching for his gun.
Mm.
"Why did you shoot him in the face?" Because he was still a threat to me.
Right.
So if you're in court situation, you have to realize you can't use lethal force or potentially lethal force or potentially life disabling force unless you're in a situation that justifies that concern
Yeah.
legitimately.
Yeah.
Legitimate. Yeah.
And I've studied kind of some of this because I live in Michigan currently, and the law it's kind of weird. It says your dog can only bite a person if they are defending you and you have not commanded them to, which is weird, but that's the only way they'll accept bites rather than.
Say that again one time to make sure I heard you correctly.
Okay. So they say in Michigan, your dog can only bite a person if you are being threatened or about to be physically harmed and they are defending you. You cannot command the dog to attack that person.
All right. So what if they are attacking you and it's recorded that they are attacking you, but the dog has been in a downstay because you've also used this dog in other situations that could appear hectic. Let's just say, for example, a dance. You're having a
Yeah.
dance party and people are hectic and slamming around and having fun and talking smack, but you've taught your dog so well to be down and stay that it's like a robot.
Yeah.
How are they going to differentiate between a violent dance and a violent fight? Unless I mean, I'm just painting a hypothetical. And so you say, get him. Or I would say guard. We use the guard command. I don't know why the industry wants to use statements like get him, which is stupid because that shows you're the aggressor.
Right.
When you should use words like guard or defend. Defend. Guard. This is a protective situation word where I'm not saying sick him. I'm not saying hunt him. And the reason why I think it's important to use a defensive word is because it reminds us in our training that we need to train for protective situations.
Yeah.
Now, I have no problem with the command being given or to the command not being given. If the dog engages when if you attack me, I want my dog to get you. The reason why is I don't really go to like violent dances. I'm painting a hypothetical. But if I was going to have a big party, like let's say a New Year's party, and we're going to be shooting fireworks, boom, 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 and people are like high-fiving or having a party or whatever, and let's just imagine people are drinking and acting a fool, I'm going to put my dog up.
Right.
Because if I don't trust you, you're not invited here anyway.
Yeah.
All right. So I would put my dog up in a situation like that. But let's just say I'm having somebody that's coming to look at puppies, and I don't know them from Adam. I might have a guard dog right with my leash, and that dog might be sit down, he'll stay calm, cool, I'll get out, because you might, I don't know if you're going to hit me over the head and grab 5 puppies and leave, you know?
Yeah.
You know, so it's all in perspective. Respect is given, but trust is earned. You come here to look at my yard, I'm going to give you respect, but I'm not going to just trust you yet. I got to get to know you and build a relationship.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Sorrells line APBT that you have on your yard. What do the sizes range from? I'm pretty sure you're kind of more in that catch weight realm. Why did you choose that line of American Pit Bull Terrier?
Yeah, I would say catch weight dogs are really hard to find today, even in the Sorrells dogs. They're pretty rare. I don't know why, but maybe there was some crossbreeding. I can't say. But back in the early 1900s, there was pit bulls that were below 20 pounds, and there was pit bulls that were 80 pounds.
Yeah.
But most of them were going to be between 30 and 60 pounds. Now it seems like most of them are going to be between 30 and 50 pounds. It seems like we've lost some of the giant dogs. The biggest pit bull I ever saw, I had 20 years ago, and his name was Chief. He was 78 pounds, and he was lean in shape. And he was a true game bred dog. But you just don't find them like that. You know, Mayday was another big dog. How many Maydays have there been? How many Sorrells Pokies have there been?
Right.
There's just not very many game bred American Pit Bull Terriers. They're going to be in excess of 55 pounds or 60 pounds or 65 pounds. It's very rare.
Yeah.
I think since, excuse me, since dogfighting has now been illegal for 50 years, I think what happened is that the size of the dogs got smaller because criminals want animals that they can pick up, they can manage, they can run out of there, grab their animal and go. I don't know that for a fact. I also think that people have learned that smaller dogs are just as entertaining as bigger dogs.
Yeah.
So why the bigger dogs are harder to handle, they're less mobile, and the smaller dogs are just as entertaining if you're in that realm. And I'm not in that realm. I'm looking for a dog for protection purposes and for hog hunting. And so for the legal realm, I'm wanting that same gameness and determination and athleticism and health and stamina and agility and power and all these things, efficiency, that you find in the game bred American Pit Bull Terrier, but I want more size.
Right.
Because if you have a 30-pound dog and a 150-pound or 200-pound hog or man, the hog can literally run through the woods with the dog hanging off of them like a Christmas tree ornament.
Yep.
I need a dog that's going to stop the hog or stop the man and do so in short order.
Right.
And so I need a bigger dog that can offer more control. So I need more power, and I also need more durability.
Absolutely.
And the Sorrells dogs are my favorite American Pit Bull Terrier by far. I would love them to be bigger, but they're so smart. They're really, really smart. And this is something that's missing in a lot of pit bulls. You know, some of the red boy dogs, some of the uh, Mayday dogs, they're just kind of missing in the intelligence department.
Mm.
And I like an intelligent dog. I want a dog that I can communicate with it, and the dog literally is inquisitive, like it's trying to figure out what I want.
Right.
The Mayday dogs, they're like they're not interested unless there's a stimulus.
Mm.
And if there's, they may work just really good at like their traditional venue,
Yeah.
but when it comes to training, sit down, he'll stay calm, play, be a buddy, be a companion in the
Yeah.
house. They don't care about that.
Mm.
And the Sorrels dogs work just as hard as the Mayday dogs, but they also have all those other traits that I like.
Right. Okay. Mm. Your thoughts on the American Pit Bull Terrier doing protection work?
I think it's fine. I'm not into illegal activities, so I'm not into dog fighting. And
Right.
if you want to preserve the gladiator aspects of the pit bull, you have to ask yourself one of two things. Are you willing to go to jail for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 35? There was a guy recently, not too long ago, that got 400 something years for dog fighting.
Whew.
Man, that's ridiculous. Um, I say it's ridiculous because any man that's willing to trade years off their life to participate in an illegal activity, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Um, I'm looking to do something that's going to test these aspects the best I legally can
Right.
by doing protection work or hog hunting, or if you want to do dock diving or treadmill racing or agility or hang time or whatever it is, weight pull. Do something that's testing the dog's physical abilities, but don't sacrifice your estate, your
Right.
family. I mean, you're supposed to be a man and provider for your family. You're really going to go to jail? Who's going to raise your kids over
Right.
doing something stupid and illegal? Just take that dog, and if you want to test it and say, I'm trying to do the best I can to preserve the traits that were in the dog's history. Now, some people might say, well, I don't want to breed man biters. Well, protection work's not always about being a man biter.
Right.
Sometimes it's about a dog learning a task on a command. They don't
Yeah.
have to hate people. There's a
No.
difference between a sentry dog and a protection dog and a sport dog. A sentry dog needs a level of defense and needs some suspicion. If you're like, well, I don't like pit bulls that have that. Okay, fine. You can still do protection and you can still do sport.
Right.
You may not have the sentry dog. Now, I'll tell you this. There's also another type of man biter with a pit bull, and that's a fear-biting, unstable animal. And I
Yeah.
don't think they have a place. I don't want
Mm.
a fear biter. I don't want an unstable animal. If a dog is so, you know what stability means in a dog is predictability.
Right.
An unstable animal is unpredictable. You don't know if it's going to kiss you or bite you. Those type of dogs do exist in pit bulls. They're not the norm,
Yeah.
but they do exist. I see them more in the Boudreaux line than anywhere else.
Mm.
But um, I'm not a big Boudreaux fan. You can easily get a lot of the Boudreaux dogs to do protection work. The question is, can you trust them with your family?
Right.
I'm not. There are some that you can, and they're probably better now than they were 20 years ago, because humans don't really like to use pit bulls for. They're with the pit bull in the media the way it is. They've probably been eliminated, and they've probably gotten better about that. But
Yeah.
they're still going to exist. You know, Daibo was another dog that was a man biter.
Mm. What was I gonna ask you?
Bully son. Go ahead.
Where do you see the American Sentinel in let's say the next 10 to 20 years? Where do you want to see it at?
Where do I want to see it at?
Yeah.
I would love to see it be the next American super breed. You know, the dog that's capable of doing just about anything. You can do agility with it. You can get a stable one that you can take down to park at a parade and have do whatever you want with it, or you can turn it into a beast of a home guardian or a junkyard dog.
Mm.
You know, a dog that's going to have the drive and the stability and the athleticism and health to do anything. You want to do weight pull, it can do that. To me, a good dog is very cerebral, very intelligent, and just this is why I like the Sorrels dogs. The Sorrels dogs, what brought me to them was a number of things. One of the first titled Schutzen pit bulls was a Sorrels dog.
Wow.
They've done well in dock diving. They've done well in show. They've done well in hang time. They've done well in treadmill racing. They've done well in weight pull. They've done well in obedience. They've done well at hog hunting, and they've done well, obviously, in the pit, which Bert Sorrells and
Right.
Parker's history was in. So, in my opinion, you've ever heard that statement that a pit bull can do anything that any other dog can do and then whip it?
Yeah.
That's what a sentinel is.
Mm.
A good sentinel is the only dog out there that the pit bull can't whip.
Mm.
If it's a good sentinel.
Yeah.
And still do all the other things. Like
Right.
you might find a Caucasian or Charca that a pit bull can whip, and you might find a Caucasian or Charca that can whoop a pit bull. But you're not going to find a Caucasian or Charca that can do dock diving, agility, stamina, obedience, hang time, weight pull, all these other things that the pit bull can do. Pull a sled for, like with a husky, those, be a family dog.
Right.
The pit bull can do all those things, and the American Sentinel can too. But the Sentinel's bigger.
Yeah.
So they're stronger and more durable.
Right.
The only thing that the pit bull would have over the Sentinel, I'm talking about a good example now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about your average dog. The pit bull is still more consistent than the Sentinel, because the pit bull's been around for basically, ADBA and UKC and whatnot for a little over 100 years, 140 years, 130 years. But realistically, the breed's probably been around for about 200 years, maybe even longer than that, because the imported dogs still were the same family of dogs for the most part. However, it's not a breed that's 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
It's about a 100 to 200-year-old breed. The American Sentinel is a 26-year-old breed.
Right.
At 26 years, we're not going to have the consistency yet, because we're still, in the last, heck, I just added some more pit bull to one of the dogs, Onyx. We just bred her to a pit bull. So when you're doing some of those crosses to change the percentages like that, you're going to have a little bit less consistency. But if you compare the best Sentinel to the best pit bull, the Sentinel, in my opinion, is a superior animal. If it wasn't, I would just be pit bulls.
Yeah. Right. Okay. I think this is a real good question for you. And we still got some time. I don't know how much time you got left, but if you could say, if you were to redo the American Sentinel Canine program today, say if you started over today, or you were born in this time when you wanted to start that program, how would you do it?
I would call up H. Lee Robinson, an American Sentinel Canine, and ask for a couple of dogs.
Yeah. That's a good answer. Okay.
Why start at ground zero when the work's already done?
Right.
We still have ways to go.
Yeah.
Okay, and the Sentinel's not perfected. What I would like to see happen in the future is improved consistency. And
Of course.
if you were to look at some of the best dogs throughout the ancestry of the American Sentinel program, we're going to look at dogs like Chewy. We're going to look at dogs like Scratch and Lady Smith and Jackson and Boss, other Preacher Man. Preacher Man was a great dog, but I wanted to improve the phenotype a little bit. He was too much Mastiff in appearance. He had determination, size, power, all the things that you want, but I wanted to just make him phenotypically more like a giant pit bull, so it would probably improve his stamina and agility.
He looked like a Borbal.
Yeah, he looked like a Borbal.
Yeah.
He's real powerful, stocky. He could jump in the pickup truck with the tailgate down, but he's not going to jump in the pickup truck with the tailgate up.
Right.
And we have some dogs that can jump in the pickup truck with the tailgate up, going over to the tailgate.
Yeah.
And when you have that kind of athleticism and you see what's capable, then and I'm not talking about a 2-wheel drive pickup that's low to the ground. I'm talking about a 4-wheel drive pickup truck. Dog can jump a 5 or 6 foot fence.
Yeah.
And move. That to me is like the perfect Sentinel. So, dog like Boss, we got a picture of him when he was on a chain at a friend of mine's house, where he was standing on top of a 6-foot kennel. He jumped up on top of the kennel with a chain on his neck.
Wow.
So we got a picture, and the guy that took a picture was like 100 yards or 50 yards away from the dog. He's standing on top of the kennel and he's wearing a chain. It was like a dog house, like a whelping box. You know what a whelping kennel is?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a little whelping box kennel, and he was tied out next to it, and he was standing on top of it.
Wow.
But The when you see dogs like that and you know what animals are capable of, this goes back to why I started breeding dogs to begin with. The wolf was a capable animal. You ever
Right.
seen a leopard grab a deer and then climb a tree,
Yeah,
holding the
it's
deer in its
impressive.
mouth?
Yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah. And so, why are we having dogs that the bulldog? I mentioned this to a guy the other day. The Mississippi State Bulldog at one time. Why did Mississippi State choose the bulldog as its mascot? It didn't choose it as a symbol of weakness. It chose it as a symbol of strength.
Right.
It chose it as a symbol of determination.
Yeah.
The bulldog, back when Mississippi State University was founded, was a capable animal.
Yeah.
Today, the bulldog is now the English bulldog, and it's a total animal that's completely incapable.
Right.
It's unhealthy, can't even give birth without a C-section,
Yeah.
can't even breathe. It can't catch a bull. You can forget about it catching a bull. It can't even knock over a trash can to eat scraps.
Yeah.
I mean, they've become so weak, they snort when they walk
Right.
because they're gassed. This
Yeah.
100 years ago was a symbol of strength.
Right.
And so the American Sentinel, my goal was for it to be the American Super Dog.
It's a good goal, and you're getting closer by the day. You know,
Yeah,
I love
that's
this program.
thank you. That's why we've added so much pit bull, is because to me the perfect Sentinel is just a giant pit bull that can do protection work.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Sorry for interrupting, but
No, you all good.
that's one thing that separates us from other Bandog breeders. Most Bandog breeders want to improve the Mastiff. I don't. I want to
Mm.
improve the pit bull. I want to improve the pit bull.
Yeah.
I don't like a dog that sheds a lot. I don't like a dog that drools a lot, and I don't like a dog that's in my way when I'm driving a car
Yeah.
or sitting on the couch. I want a dog that's clean and efficient, and it's an asset and never a burden.
Right.
And to me, mastiffs are plagued with genetic disease, and they're in the way. If you're not an active person, the mastiff's not in the way. But if you're an active person and you want to be able to open your door to your vehicle, and the dog jumps in on the seat, goes across and sits on the passenger side, and it's just real athletic and springy like that, dog ain't in the way.
Right. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I know. I had a presser. As soon as we get to about a mile and a half, he just lay out on the street. Just lays down.
Yeah. And now you got to worry about how you're going to get him home.
Right. Or we got to sit there for 10, 15 minutes, let him cool down, and then we start walking again. Then he lays down again. Then we start walking again. Yeah.
Yeah. And how's a dog going to protect you no matter how good his drive is? If, let's say you're camping, you went for a hike, you come back to your camp, and somebody's raiding your camp, but your dog's tired
Yeah.
and he wants to lay down. He's
Yeah.
done.
You won't. It's not gonna happen.
Right.
Bro, I think that's all the questions I have for you today, Lee. I'm gonna definitely have to have you back on my channel. This was great. I appreciate you. If there's anything you want to add, by all means, go ahead.
Yeah, I will add something that's been on my mind a lot lately, and that is we all struggle in life, whether it be you, me, whatever. We all struggle in life, and something I've been struggling with a lot lately. I'm going to share it with your viewers because they may be struggling with this too, and that is sometimes we have to overcome the fear of bad choices. You know, I sit here and try to figure out, am I going to stay here or am I going to move? I made a video about it earlier because it's on my mind a lot. I don't know if I'll end up posting the video or not, but it's on my mind. Like I thought about going to North Alabama or East Tennessee because I've always been called to the mountains,
Yeah.
to live in the mountains. I want to live in a place that doesn't have hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, low crime, territory that's beautiful. I want to be able to see the world, see God's creation, and remind myself every day that I'm a small ant, that my significance is not here. It's my creator that deserves glory. I don't know what your religious views are, but my point is I just need this spiritually, but
Yeah.
yet I'm afraid to move because I've built a place here and I hate to leave it. And
Right.
so I'm thinking about building a canine facility, and I'm kind of like paralysis via analysis. I'm trying to analyze, would it be better for me to leave and go there and build my facility there or stay here? And sometimes these fears of, is it better to stay here or fear to go, or is it better to go there? I think it's important that we don't paralyze ourselves through fear of making the wrong mistake. Sometimes we
Mhm.
just got to. Sometimes we got to do something. We just got to
Yeah.
do something, and I got to figure that out. So, for those of you that are spiritual, keep me in your prayers. I've got to figure out what I'm going to do. If I'm going to build here or build there, it's a big change to make because my family, my children for the most part have already left. I still got a 10-year-old daughter that lives here.
Yeah.
My wife's family is from here, so if I was to move, that's going to be hard on my wife, and I've got to
Mhm.
figure out. And it's my duty to not only serve my Creator but also to serve my wife. I'm called there, but she's called here, and we got to figure that out. And as a man, I have to sacrifice to make the right decisions, not just for my own selfish goals, but also to serve my family.
Yeah.
So I'm struggling with that, but there's other people out there. And so regardless of what I do, I'm not going to let fear cause me to not build here and not go there.
Right.
I need to decide, build here and stay here, or go there and build there. But
Yeah.
either, regardless of whether I stay here or go there, I need to build. Don't let fear stop you from moving forward.
Man, you just spoke to me. I'm moving next week, actually. Yep. Yeah. So I'll be moving. I'm just saying I'm moving to Chicago next week. So, yep.
Well, how old are
Yeah.
you?
I'm 19, about to be 20 next month.
All right, so you're about to be 20. So there's 365 days a year, so that's 3,600 times 2, so you've been on the planet for about 7,200 days. If you're lucky, you'll have about 36,000 days. If you live to be 100, that's 36,000 days, and you've already
Mm.
lived 7,200. So that means you've got about 25,000 days left in your life. Don't waste them. Make every day count. They go by
Wow.
fast.
I appreciate that. Yeah, you
You
just
take
spoke to that, man.
Yeah,
Wow.
don't waste your time. Make every day count. Make a
Yeah.
step forward. It may not be a big step, but make a step.
Right. Wow. Okay. Well, man, I appreciate it, man. This was great. Like I said, I'm gonna have to have you back on at some point. I appreciate you for your time. God bless you and your family. And this was another episode of Catch Dog, not Catch Dog. That's my old name, K9 Development and Culture. I appreciate you guys for watching. Tune in to this episode and share it, like it, subscribe to Lee, and thank you.
My pleasure. You take care and have a blessed day.